Morning there, Brew Tech, AZ Homebrewer, making another video. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hopefully, like many other brewers, we got some awesome stuff from our significant other, and I did just as well. So I've upgraded my rig a little bit. Basically, I just got a new boil pot with the triclad bottom, and so my old pot's now my HLT. I'll show you all that kind of stuff. But today I'm making a blonde ale with Hulo Melon, as well as some other different kind of hops. These hops smell wonderful. I was getting a very fruity kind of hop, so I'm making a nice little blonde, and hell, for all I know, it might make like a tropical fruit kind of beer. I don't know. So hopefully you stick around long enough to see me do the whole brew process. All right, nothing super excited and different other than my old boil pot, you know, is by the etching that I did, is now in my HLT position, and I've also added the thermometer that was attached to my old boil pot that you see right, or my old HLT that was right there. So basically, the new one I got was a stainless steel Brew Tech one. Basically, one thing. And this is going to be my very first brew with this one, obviously. So far between the Spike Brewery and the Brew Tech, the one thing I definitely did notice is because of these welded fittings right here, where this is all weldless. And you got the O-rings and whatnot. So I'm going to see how that one goes, but I wanted it because it has the triclad bottom, so you don't scorch any wort or anything. The inside's not too much different. I'm going to be trying out this weird pickup dip tube thing in there. I don't know how you can see it because I can't see from here. So something that I'm going to add to my my system is I'm going to create a whirlpool now after my boil ends. Only got the one chugger pump still, so the Santa didn't get me another one like I was asking for. So basically, I'm just going to take the outline here, inline, out, and then back up to the Vorloft-esque fittings, so that way it'll create a nice whirlpool cone on the inside. So this is my first time going to be doing one of those, so this is going to be a learning experience for me. Hopefully everything goes right. Okay, I can't see, or can't tell how well you see it there, but basically, you know, making a blonde melon. I'm basing it off of Denver water. So I have my additions right here for all my RO. A little over 8.5 pounds of pale malt, Vienna malt, wheat malt. So I got the German Mandarina Bavaria Hulo Melon. The whole melon smells awesome. The Sriracha Ace. All three of these should make a very, very good little blonde beer. And basically, you know, it's like what a blonde is. It's, you know, not very heavy on the color or anything else. My bitterness is a little higher, only because I'm using these new hops, and I figure I might as well give it a whirl. And besides, 26 isn't that bad anyway. It could be a whole lot worse. So while I'm getting my strike water and sparge water heated up, this is one of the other things that Santa got me. It's a new pH meter. You see in many of my other videos that those ones that I bought, the little cheapy plastic ones, whether they work, yes, but man, they can break real easily. And I've broken 2 of them, and so I felt it was time that Santa got me an upgraded one. This thing was about 55 bucks on Amazon. I've already calibrated it, so it has a nice little easy to read screen on it. One of the things that I always said is to make sure that the tip is always wet, even in storage. So that thing's been wet, you know, since I held before Christmas, because the wife forgot to put it away when I got home one day, and so I saw one of my Christmas presents. So basically, I got I got my sparge water, started to warm up. There's my puppies that won't stop whining. And then I got my HLT warming up right now. So I got a little bit longer to go before I go and hit my temperatures. So I just added all my beer salts to this, and It looks horrible, but it's all according to the plan with Beersmith to make it Denver-like water. Why I chose Denver, I don't know, just because it's better than the water I got here in Arizona, because we have extremely hard water. So hopefully picking Denver water doesn't bite me in the ass. We'll see. Okay, so now my water is now at temp at 165, and so now it's the doughing in part of everything. And for the most part, you're going to add a little bit at a time while you're adding your grain. If you add too much grain all at one time, it's kind of like when you add chocolate milk powder to water or milk, and it'll clump up in dough balls. That's what you want to avoid, is all the dough balls. And so I just take my time laying that in. I've killed the heat, by the way, because you know it's going to absorb some of that heat and then get down to my mashing temperature, which I think is like a 154, 156, somewhere around there. I'll look at that when I'm not doughing in anymore. And so basically, I mean, it's really, you know, nothing much. Now, obviously, heavier grain builds, I can't do this one-handed. It's a blonde, so it's going to be light. So it doesn't really matter all too much. Stay. And you just want to make sure that there's no dough balls whatsoever. Everything is well incorporated to your mash. So it looks like very liquidated meat or oatmeal is basically, I guess, the best consistency you're looking for. Come on, get every little bit in there. And so basically, hold this down because I can't do this stuff all one-handed. Basically, there's that's what your mash is supposed to look like. Put the beer salts and everything, put the lid back on top. And let's see. I don't know if you can see that very well. It says I'm about 158. And it says I need to be at 156 for my strike, or for my mash temp. So I'm basically right on the money. So this is the first brew day I've had in a long time, or at least since I've upgraded my mash tun to the Spike Brewery one. That's not windy as shit out here, because last like 2 or 3 times that I've been brewing, it's been windy, and so I have been able to keep my temperature on my tun very well, because it keeps winning and keeps changing the temperature and everything. So this is actually a pretty damn calm day. So hopefully I can keep my temp going fairly well without having to constantly tend to it, because I still need to get a insulation jacket for my tun. I just haven't had time to do it yet. Got to get paid. So typically there's brewers out there, including myself, that have a different way of checking the mash pH. Some people do it at the very beginning of it, which I don't think is sound, because you just put all the grains in there. It's not going to give it enough time to react to the waters and brew salts to get correct reading. Some people might do it at the end. Some people might even do it at the middle. I've come to find that I do mine about 5 to 10 minutes in. Because during that first 5-10 minutes you're stirring, making sure everything stays wet, there's no dough balls and everything else, and that's the first initial amount of heat that hits your grains and absorb it and everything, and that's when the starch conversion starts processing. So I usually like to do mine at about 7 to 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes in, to get a good reading. I might take a second reading. It never hurts, as long if it's not those disposable strips and you just a tester keep putting in. Hell, you could test it fucking 20 times a day if you want. But basically, I'm hitting my schedule because based off my beersmith, it says I was supposed to hit a pH of 5.68, which is actually in the red. And I just did a reading, and it's at 5.3, which is in the blue or the green, whichever way you want to look at it. The good. It's good. So probably, and I'm only into the mash 16 minutes. So I'll probably do another one because I still have another half an hour to go. Might do one in about 15 minutes just to take another reading, just to verify, just to check, because it could still keep coming down as well. Because that's what I was seeing during my first readings. I was getting 5.5, then the 5.4, then the 5.3. It might be right at 5.2 by the time I'm all said and done. So just basically sitting around and wait. Okay, so basically I got a few minutes left before my mash is done. So I've already set everything up to do my Vorloft. And I'm pretty sure you've seen it inside the kettle already where I have the little spout coming out. So when the timer goes off, I'm going to open up the valve and make sure that valve's all the way open. Just let that cycle through so I can get a nice clear wort before I put it in the brew pot. So, a couple more minutes. Alright, timer went off. Open that bad boy up. That's coming up. Basically open up the chugger. Actually, maybe I'll let that thing sit for a quick minute. Kind of fill up. So that, yeah, there we go. So I want to give this thing a chance to fill up so it doesn't cavitate. There we go. Pump on. So you can see in there all the steam. And Vorlofting. Okay, nice clean wort coming through. I'm gonna do that for a couple minutes. Keep the lid on. That way, keep all that water in there without it splashing out. Then transfer it over to my boil kettle. Okay, got all the wort transferred over. You can see I can't see very well, but it's maybe 8 3/4 gallons. Getting real close to the boil. I do a 90-minute boil, and as you can see, I'm getting real close to doing that. So I'll be doing my additions here real shortly. Okay, as you can see, for my 90-minute boil, I got about 45 seconds left before I do my first addition. And I got all these laid out now for all my additions. So the first one at the 60-minute mark is going to be the Bavaria. I'm sorry if I butchered the shit out of these names, but this has a very, I want to say almost tangerine-y kind of smell, but not really. I don't know how to really kind of describe it. 20-minute mark, this is where I'm picking up on pineapple for this whole melon. It smells absolutely wonderful. So here in a few seconds, I'm going to be adding my 60-minute boil, or the 60-minute mark. There we go. And turn it down some. This stuff loves to boil over. Well, let's let this turn it down and get it back up once it's up and going. Good stuff. Okay, got about 35 seconds before my third to last addition. It's my 10-minute mark. So this has Irish moss in it, yeast energizer, including the hop addition, obviously. So where's my? There we go. So nothing too different from it. So, I got these red solo cups and I use it for additions. Still smells wonderful. So let's see what time we got here left. Yeah, 4 seconds. Good thing is I don't have to worry about stirring that kind of stuff around. Well, the boil does it for me. So here in 10 minutes I'm going to be doing a whirlpool. I got everything set. I got everything sanitized, which probably because it's still boiling hot, I probably didn't have to worry about putting in the sanitizer, but it's a good habit to have. So I also got my water line primed, so when it comes down to cool the wort, when I put it out the plate chiller. So basically as soon as the timer hits 0, put it in there. I think I'm going to let it whirlpool for about 5 minutes and then let it sit for a few more minutes so it can set the cone. And then I'll go ahead and start draining the wort into my fermenter. The bottom of this, by the way, has one of those spouts with the scraper edge on it. And that's the reason why I'm going to be doing a whirlpool, to make sure that I get the hot break and hot cone in the center, so that way when I go to suck or start to drain, it's not going to suck up any remnants of any hot pellets or anything else. So alright, just hold tight. Alright, boil's over. Got this line completely open. Went through here, so I'm starting my whirlpool. Let's open it up in here. There we go. So I'm just going to let that go for a couple minutes. Maybe 5 to be precise. Then let it rest. And then go ahead and start emptying it out. I've already got all this ready to go. Everything's ready except for just waiting on the whirlpool. Okay, so now I'm cooling down my wort. Going through my plate chiller, coming out into here. And here's my ice bucket with my old immersion chiller that I put in there so it recirculates my water all the way through. Obviously with only 2 hands I can't check the temperature right now, but it is coming out cool. So I'd say, is it within pitching temperature? Yes. Is it where I want to be? No, not yet. So it's just a matter of time when I aerate the wort and put it in my freezer. Okay, brew day is done. I got my wort in my little chest freezer up there. I still got to hit it with some O2 and pitch it. But I got my O2 one in there sitting. So I figured I'd show you what the whirlpool cone looked like at the end of everything. So it didn't keep everything out. That could be partially from my fault, I'm not sure. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever done a whirlpool, but you can see how much of that all the hot break and hops and everything else stayed there right there in the center versus where my pickup tube is. So for the most part, everything worked very, very well. Alright, so now it's just time to oxygenate the wort. Got my wand is nice and sanitized. This is a 5-micron filter. So I'm going to stick it right there in the wort. And just turn on my oxygen. Yeah, sorry about that, that's some difficulties. But as you can see, my wort is well oxygenated. Put pure O2 in there. Because when you boil, you actually wind up removing a lot of the oxygen that the yeast need to multiply. So that's all said and done, so now it's just pitching the yeast. Alright, basically, sanitized funnel. This time I'm doing a smack pack versus my normal starters. Hopefully this is enough, honestly, for a blonde. So this thing's been sitting for a while. This thing's all nice and expanded. Sanitized outside, sanitized scissors. On the last little shake. So that way you can get all that sediment if it's been sitting around. So this thing might spit. There you go. Not much of a spit. Just enough to put a little hole in there. And then basically just adding the yeast. That's all it. So this thing will sit for a while, doing its fermentation process. Put it in the secondary. There's some dry hopping that I wind up doing in the secondary. Then this thing will be ready to cake about mid January. So that's about all I have left on this one. So this is a easy homebrewer. If you got any questions, go ahead and comment below. I try to answer them as best as possible. Other than that, cheers and brew on. Have a good one.